Welcome back, friends. This is part 2 of Journey through the book Don't Believe Everything That You Think. Yesterday, in part 1, we started exploring how our thoughts are not always the truth and how believing them blindly can create stress and confusion in our lives. In chapter 2, we will go a little deeper into understanding where our thoughts actually come from and why they often created unnecessary problems for us. This part of book shows us how our mind constantly generate ideas, judgments and stories. But just because a thought appear doesn't mean we need to accept it as reality. So, in this session, as I read chapter 2 for you, try to notice your own thoughts, ask yourself, and do I ask, believe every thought I get, or I can stop back and see them just as passing mental events? Chapter 2, the root causes of all suffering. One who look around him is intelligent, and one who look within him is wise. We live in a world of thoughts, not reality. Sydney Banks once said, "Thought is not reality, yet it is through thought that our realities are created." Each of us lives through our own perception of the world, which are vastly different from the person right next to us. An example of this is that you could be sitting in a coffee shop having a quarter life existential crisis, completely stressed out of your mind, but about how you have no idea what you are doing with your life when it seems like everyone else has their together, while the person next to you is happily enjoying their freshly brewed drink while peacefully people watching. You both are in the same exact coffee shop, smelling the same aroma, surrounded by the same strangers, but how the world looked to both of you couldn't be more different. Many of us go through the exact same events or are in the same location at the same time, yet are having completely different experiences of the world. Here, another example of how we live in a world of thoughts and not reality. If you walk up 100 different people and ask each of them that money means to them, how many different answers do you think you will get? Clues at 100 different answers. Money is technically the same thing, but it means something different to each person. Money could mean time, freedom, opportunity, security, peace of mind, or it could be mean evil, greed, and the reason why people committed crimes. For now, I am not going to get into which one is right or wrong. Hint, there is no right or wrong answer, but that's for a different chapter. Another illustration of this concept is as follows. If you survey 100 different people and ask each of them what they think of our current president, how many different answers do you think you will get? Even though it is the same exact person we are talking about, we will get 100 different answers because most people live in their own thoughts and perception of the world. The meaning we give an event is what determine how we ultimately feel about it. That meaning or thinking is the filter through which we see life from them on. Because of this, we live through a perception of reality, not in a reality itself. Reality is that the event happened with no meaning, thinking, or interpretation of it. Any meaning or thinking we give to the event is on us, and how that is how our perception of reality is created. This is how our experience of life is created from the inside out. It's not about the event that happen in our daily lives, but our interpretation of them, which causes us to feel good or bad about something. This is how people in third world countries can be happier than people in first world countries, and people in first world countries can be more miserable than people in third world countries. Our feelings do not come from external events but from our own thinking about the events. Therefore, we can only ever feel what we are thinking. Let's hypothetically say that you are really hate your job and it causes you an enormous amount of stress, anxiety, and frustration. It pains you to even set foot in the building where you work, and just thinking about your job makes you furious. When you are thinking about your job, you are just sitting there on a sofa with your family watching a TV show together, but you are fuming at the thought of your job. Everyone else is having a good time except you. In this moment, everyone else in your family is having a different experience in life than you, even though the same event is happening. Just thought of work created a whole different perception of reality, even though you are not physically at work. If it were true that external events cause us to feel the way we feel inside, then you should be a happy camper in your living room, watching a funny TV show with your family, even single time you do this activity, but that's not the case. Now, you may be saying that you are not feeling the this way because an external event, your job, is causing you to feel stressed or anxious. To that, I will ask the question, is the absolutely true that every single person feels the exact same way about the job they are working in? Two different people can be doing the exact same job but will have completely different experiences of that job. It can be the most amazing experience and drama and dream job for one person but be another person's worst nightmare of living hell. The only difference between the person and other is how they think about their job, which determines how they ultimately feels about it. Now let's go back to the original scenario of your hypothetical hating. Remember how much stress, anxiety, and frustration it causes you when you think about it. Let's do a quick thought experiment about that by answering this question below. Who would you be without that thought that you hated your job? It take 1 minute to see what comes up for you and don't move you until you do it. That if you don't overthink it and truly let the answer surface from within you, without that thought, you will most likely feel be happy, peaceful, free, and light. Without our usual thinking about particular event or thinking, our experiences of it completely alters. This is how we live in a world of thoughts, not reality, and how our perception of reality is created from the inside out through our own thinking. With this new understanding, you have just uncovered the cause of all our human psychological suffering. The root causes of our suffering is our own thinking. Now, before you throw this book across the room and light it on a fire, I am not saying that this is all in our heads and that isn't real. Our perception of reality is very real. We will feel what we think, and our feelings are real. That is completely undeniable. However, our thinking will look like an unavoidable, untouchable, unchangeable reality, and to us until we begin seeing how our reality is created. If we know that we can only feel ever what we are thinking, then we know that we can change our feelings by changing our thinking. Thus, we can change our experience of life by knowing that it has come from our own thinking. And if that is true, then we are even only one thought away from our experiencing something different and transforming our entire lives at many moments through a state of no thoughts. In short, the moment we stop thinking is when our happiness begins. A young monk and empty boat, a Zen story about how thinking is the cause of our own suffering. A long time ago, a young Zen monk was living in a small monastery that was located in a forest which was near a small lake. The monastery was occupied by a few senior monks, while the rest were newcomers and still had much to learn. The monk had monk obligations in the monastery, but one of the most important ones was their daily routine where they have to sit down, close their eyes and meditate in silence for hours at a time. After each meditation, they had to report their progress to their mentors. The young monk had difficulty staying focused during his meditation practice for a variety of reasons, which made him very mad. After the young monk reported his progress, or better said, lack of it, to his mentor, the elder monk asked the young monk a simple question that had a hidden lesson. Do you know what is real making you angry? The young monk replied, well, usually as soon as I close my eyes and begin to meditate, there is someone moving around and I cannot focus. I get agitated that someone is disturbing me even though they know that I am meditating. How can you not be more considerate? And then when I close my eyes again and try to focus, a cat or a small animal might brush past and disturb me again. By this point, even When the wind blows and the tree branches make noise, I get angry. If that is not enough, the bird keeps on chirping and I can't seem to find any peace in this place. The elder monk simply pointed out of his pupil. I see that you become angrier with each interruption you encounter. This is exactly the opposite of what is the point of your task when meditating. You should find a way not to get angry with people or animal or any other things around you that disturb you during your tasks. After their consultation, the young monk went out of the monastery and looked around to find a place that would be quieter so that he could meditate peacefully. He found such a place at the shore of the lake that is nearby. He brought this mat, he brought his mat, sat down, and started meditating. But soon a flock of birds splashed down in the lake near where the monk was meditating. Hearing this their noise, the monk opened his eyes to see what was going on. Although the bank of the lake was quieter than the monastery, there were still things and that would disturb his peace, and he again got angry. Even though he didn't find the peace he was looking for, he kept returning to the lake. Then one day the monk saw a boat tied at the end of a small pier, and right then an idea hit him. Why don't I take a boat, row it down to the middle of the lake and meditate there? In the middle of the lake there will be nothing to disturb me. He rowed and the boat to the middle of the lake and started meditating. As he had expected, there was nothing in the middle of the lake to disturb him, and he was able to meditate the whole day. At the end of the day, he returned to the monastery. He continued for a couple of days, and the monk was thrilled that he had finally found a place to meditate in a peace. He hadn't felt angry and could continue the meditation practice in a calm manner. One on the third day, the monk sat in the boat, rowed to the middle of the lake, and started meditating again. A few minutes later, he heard some splash of water and felt that the boat was rocking. He started getting upset that even in the middle of the lake there was someone or something disturbing him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a boat heading straight towards him. He shouted, "Steer your boat away, or else you will hit my boat." But the other boat kept coming straight at him and was just a few feet away. He yelled again, but nothing changed. And so the incoming boat hit the monk's boat. Now he was furious. He screamed, "Who are you? And why you have to hit my boat in the middle of the this vast lake?" There was no answer. This made young monk even angrier. He stood, he stood up to see who was in other boat, and to surprise, he found out that there was no one in the boat. Boat had probably drifted along in the breeze and had dumped into the monk's boat. The monk found his anger dissipating. It was just an empty boat. There was no one to get angry at. At the moment, he remembered his mentor's question, "Do you know what is really making you angry?" And then wondered, "As I not others, people, situation, or circumstances, it is not the empty boat, but my reaction to that cause my anger. All the people or situations that make me upset and angry are just like the empty boat. They don't have the power to make me angry without my own reaction." The monk then rowed the boat back to the shore. He returned to the monastery and started meditating along with the other monks. There was still noise and disruptions around, but the monk treated them as empty boat and continued to meditate peacefully. When the elder monk saw the difference, he simply said to the young monk, "I see that you have found that what is the really making you angry and overcome that." Thank you.